Alright, you lot. Fancy a bit of a rant, do we? Well, you're in for a treat, because today we're diving headfirst into a special Twonk Week. You know, that one bloke who's managed to cock things up in ways that defy all logic. This week's a gaming genius with an RTX 4070 laptop who's done everything but check bloody basics like Wi-Fi stability. But before we unpack this digital disaster, don't forget to like, subscribe and all that bollocks. It helps channel grow, keeps me ranting, and ensures twonks like this never escape accountability. Now buckle up, it's about to get spicy. Right then, it's seen. Gaming laptop rocking an RTX 4070, a 240Hz display, and processing power of a small spaceship. Sounds promising, eh? Except our Twonk Week, let's call him Captain Overkill, is losing 1v1 fates in his favourite game cause it randomly freezes. Tragic, I know. He's tried capping FPS, disabling DX renderer, unplugging his second monitor, and even muttering prayers to PC gods. But no luck. Now let's pause here. This isn't about game being broken. This is about not checking fundamental. Captain Overkill, did you even run a stable ping test? Have you checked if your laptop's power settings are throttling performance? What about infamous Windows game bar or Nvidia overlay? Did you nuke them properly? Oh, and let's not forget about optimise mode. Spoiler alert, it's not that optimal. And here's kicker. Our friend compared this unplayable performance to Series X. Well, guess what? Consoles are purpose-built to avoid all this tinkering. Your shiny laptop, on the other hand, requires a bit of care and feeding. Otherwise, you're basically running a Ferrari on supermarket fuel and wondering why it's stalling. So what could Captain Overkill have done differently? Alright, let's start with obvious here. Captain Overkill's gaming laptop had specs that make most desktop rigs jealous. But here's the thing, gaming laptops are finicky little divas. They're not designed to just plug and play at highest settings and expect smooth sailing without a little TLC. First off, check your internet connection. I know, it seems too basic, but trust me, I've seen enough Wi-Fi woes to know it's often culprit behind these annoying freezes and lag spike. You've got your RTX 4070, but if your Wi-Fi is running at 2.4 GHz and you're 200 feet away from router, what do you expect? A goddamn miracle? Nah mate, you're just asking for trouble. Move closer, or better yet, get a wired connection. No Wi-Fi can compete with stability or ours lines. Period. Lack of stable internet is one of the most common reasons for stuttering and lag during gameplay, and it's first place to check before you go blaming game or laptop's hardware. If your Wi-Fi is dodgy, that's problem. Simple as. Next up, your setting. Power plan. Are you on high performance or balanced? If you're on balanced, you're probably throttling hell out your CPU and GPU without even realising. When you're gaming, you want every ounce of power. Switch to high performance in your power settings and ensure your GPU settings are optimised for performance, not power saving. You'd be shocked how often this simple change can work wonders. Don't leave your laptop running on equivalent to 56k dial-up when you've got fibre optic specs underneath it. Speaking of settings, let's talk about those Nvidia drivers. Are you running latest ones? Did you just leave it on auto update and pray it works? Nah. Check your drivers manually. Nvidia's hotfix drivers have been known to address specific stuttering issues, especially on newer GPUs like 4070. Sometimes you'll find issues in VSync, FastSync, or even something as annoying as background apps, chewing up system resources while you're gaming. For the sake of your sanity, make sure those are up to date and your system's running rate ones for gaming. Simple driver update could solve half your problems. Now let's talk about something a lot of gamers overlook. Thermals. You're running a laptop with high-end components in a tiny chassis. That thing's got less airflow than a damp garage. Overheating can cause throttling, which means your game freezes or drops frames. Even if temps look good on paper, sometimes those numbers can be misleading when you're pushing your system hard. Get yourself a cooling pad and make sure you're not blocking air vents. Simple steps, huge payoff. And lastly, let's mention optimise mode. This is stealthy troublemaker. Laptops with Nvidia graphics often have hybrid graphics setup, with system switches between integrated Intel graphics and Nvidia GPU. This can cause some serious issues in certain games, leading to stuttering and crashes. Disable Optimus in your BIOS setting and force system to use dedicated GPU all the time. Performance boost is often immediate. And there you have it, folks. Basic fixes that will get Captain Overkill back on track. But if you're still feeling that breeze, there might be something deeper at play. Don't worry, we've got more tricks up our sleeve. So let's get down to meat and potatoes of this issue. In-game settings and software conflicts. Sure, Captain Overkill's laptop specs are solid, but it's like buying a Ferrari and driving it with handbrake on. We're talking about game settings themselves. First, let's talk about VSync. Our boy Captain Overkill mentioned turning it off and on to no avail, but there's more to it than just flipping switch. VSync can be a double-edged sword. It can smooth out frame pacing, but if you're getting stutters, especially in FPS heavy games, it's worth turning it completely off or experimenting with fast sync. Fast sync might also solve that micro stutter problem that's creeping up every couple of seconds. Nvidia's drivers are notorious for creating weird issues with certain VSync configurations, so sometimes problem isn't with game, it's with your settings. If you're seeing screen tearing, try enabling it again and fine-tune your graphics option. Another potential issue is frame rate cap. Captain Overkill tried setting cap to 120 FPS, but did he try disabling it entirely? Capping frame rate can sometimes limit performance, especially if your GPU is trying to push more frames than your screen can handle. It's one of those things where you need to find a sweet spot for both performance and fluidity. If you're not experiencing a consistent frame rate, let's say you're bouncing between 100 to 200 FPS, then disable cap entirely and see if that fixes things. This can often smooth out any weird stutters that are happening when the game is rendering too fast or not fast enough. Next, let's talk about background apps. It's too easy to forget that even with all fancy gaming hardware, your laptop CPU and RAM are constantly being bombarded by unnecessary processors. Disable unnecessary background applications before you fire up a game. Discord, your browser, even something as simple as music player can eat your precious resources that could be dedicated to your game. Your laptop's trying to run 1,000 things at once. Time to show it who's boss. Make sure that when you're gaming, it's only thing running at full throttle. Oh, and Windows Game Bar, turn that off too. It can occasionally mess with your game performance. And then there's DirectX Renderer. You've tried toggling it, but have you tried resetting game's graphical settings to the default? Sometimes tweaking too much or overcompensating by turning off certain features can cause other odd performance issues. Starting fresh with default settings might eliminate hidden conflicts you didn't even know existed. It's like taking the system out for a spin with engine running smooth again, instead of trying to overcompensate with one foot on gas and other on brake. Lastly, if you're running external peripherals, like a second monitor, make sure they're not pulling any unwanted attention from your laptop's GPU. It's a common issue with gaming laptops where the system gets confused about which screen to prioritise. Disabling your second monitor might sound extreme, but if you're getting consistent issues with a single screen, that second one could be throwing the whole system into a frenzy. These in-game and software level tweaks should be your next course of action. But Captain Overkill's wars might not just be tied to settings. Oh no, could be a full-blown hardware or software conflict in disguise. So let's pull back curtain and see if there's something deeper lurking under the hood of that shiny RTX 4070 laptop. First, let's talk about operating system. Windows updates. Love them or hate them, can screw with your system stability in ways you didn't even know were possible. One minute everything's smooth, next your game freezes every few seconds. Captain Overkill is running an outdated version of Windows or hadn't installed latest patches, might be running into compatibility issues. Always check for Windows updates and make sure that you're on latest build. Sometimes these updates address specific hardware software conflict, especially for newer GPUs like RTX 4070. Speaking of updates, let's not forget about driver conflicts. Captain Overkill's Nvidia drivers might be up to date, but what if there's an hidden conflict in other drivers? For example, chipset drivers or audio drivers can sometimes create issues in games, especially if they're outdated or incompatible with your GPU. And you can't forget about BIOS. Might sound a bit techy, but your system's BIOS needs to be updated regularly to ensure compatibility with newer hardware. An outdated BIOS can cause everything from stuttering to full-on crashes. To make sure you're not overlooking firmware and chipset updates from your laptop's manufacturer. Next, there's potential for background software conflicts. Have you checked if any third-party software might be causing issues? Programs like overclocking tools, performance monitors, or even security software like antivirus programs can sometimes interfere with your GPU or CPU, causing performance hits. These programs often have enhancements or boosters that can be more trouble than they're worth. Try disabling any non-essential software before gaming. And for love of God, disable any unnecessary overlays. NVIDIA GeForce Experience, Discord overlays, Steam overlay. They're nice to have, but they can seriously eat into system resources and cause crashes or fixes. And now we're getting into the most painful part of troubleshooting, hardware failure. It's a tough pill to swallow, but sometimes hardware can cause issues that make it seem like your system is fully functioning when it's not. Faulty RAM or an unstable power supply can cause game to freeze. This is where things get tricky because diagnostics on hardware failures aren't always clear cut. But if you've ruled out all software, settings and updates, might be time for a stress test. Tools like MemTest86 for RAM or Evan for GPU stress testing can help you identify if there's any underlying issue with your laptop's component. If you're still under warranty, time to contact support. And don't forget, overheating can also result in throttling or system instability, so always keep an eye on those temperatures. So, Captain Overkill, if you're still getting those freezes after all this, software, drivers, settings, then you might be dealing with a deeper issue. At this point, question must be asked, is it time to upgrade? Let's dig into potential hardware upgrades that could give Captain Overkill performance boost he so desperately needs. Let's talk about RAM. If you're running an high-end GPU like an RTX 4070 but still only rocking 8GB of RAM, you're probably bottlenecking your system. Games today are far more RAM hungry than they were a few years ago. 16GB is pretty much sweet spot for modern gaming, and 32GB isn't unheard of for future-proofing. If your laptop can support it, upgrading to more RAM might just smooth that entire experience and eliminate those freezing issues. Plus, it's one of the easiest upgrades you can do without taking your laptop apart, assuming it's user upgradable. And let's not forget about memory speed. If you're using slow RAM, it's like trying to run a race with concrete shoes. Higher speed RAM can make a noticeable difference in performance. Next up, SSD. If you're still using a traditional hard drive for game storage, time to jump on SSD train. Modern SSDs offer insane read and write speeds that dramatically reduce load times and can even improve game performance by reducing stuttering during gameplay. Sure, your laptop might have an SSD in it already, but what's capacity? If it's only 256GB, you're probably filling that up fast. A larger, faster NVMe SSD could make a world of difference when it comes to overall system responsiveness and game stability. If your laptop supports it, M.2 NVMe SSDs are way to go. They're far faster than traditional SATA SSDs. Now let's talk about cooling solution. A laptop, no matter how powerful, is a heating disaster waiting to happen if it don't have proper airflow. Captain Overkill has seen thermal throttling, even if it's subtle. Could be time to invest in a laptop cooling pad. These nifty gadgets don't just sit there looking fancy, they actively increase airflow and lower internal temperatures, which could prevent these freezing issues caused by overheating. If you're really serious about performance, some cooling pads come with multiple fans and even adjustable speeds. It's like giving your laptop a fan-cooled spa treatment while it games on. And if you're absolutely desperate to get things running smoothly, consider upgrading to a new laptop. This might seem extreme, but if hardware you have is no longer meeting your needs, especially with issues that can't be fixed with tweaks, it might be time to consider a complete overhaul. With gaming laptops evolving so quickly, possible that newer model with better cooling, more efficient power management and improved CPU, GPU configurations could be a worthwhile investment. But remember, this should be a last resort once you've exhausted all other options. Upgrading hardware in a gaming laptop isn't as easy as with a desktop, so make sure you're getting a full system that supports the kind of gaming experience you want. In conclusion, upgrading your laptop's hardware can certainly solve many issues, but only if you're working within system's limitation. Before you go throwing your money into pit, make sure you've exhausted all software solutions, cleaned up your system, and ruled out basic issues like Wi-Fi or driver conflicts. But if all else fails, these hardware tweaks might just be magic bullet Captain Overkill needs. So, Captain Overkill's issues with his RTX 4070 laptop might be starting to clear up, but we're not done yet. Let's talk about how to keep this bad boy running smooth long term and avoid getting stuck in the same cycle of freezes and stutters again. First things first, system maintenance. Just like any high performance machine, your gaming rig needs regular TLC. We're talking about disk cleanup, defragmentation, though not on SSDs, and driver update. Make sure you're regularly checking for NVIDIA, chipset, and audio driver update. New releases often address game-specific bugs, stability issues, and performance boosts. It's like keeping your car tuned up before it breaks down on highway. Speaking of storage, if you're gaming on an SSD, don't overload it. SSDs tend to slow down when they get near capacity. Leave at least 20% of space free to maintain speed and avoid stuttering during those massive game load times. If you've been running your SSD full for months without a second thought, that could be contributing to some of your stuttering issues. So clear out those old files and uninstall games you're not playing. Maintain that digital breathing room for the system to do its job. Now let's talk about heat management again. We've already discussed cooling pads, but regular internal cleaning is key. Dust and grime can clog up your laptop's vents, causing it to overheat and throttle. This isn't just a once-in-a-while job. Your laptop needs cleaning every few months. Simple can of compressed air can blow out dust from vents and keep airflow optimal. But if you're not comfortable taking it apart, then get a professional to clean it. But don't neglect it. Heat's a silent killer of performance. Maintaining a clean system is half the battle. Another way to keep your system running smoothly is to keep an eye on background processors. You don't need all those programs running while you game. Close unneeded applications and services. Task Manager is your best friend here. Be ruthless. While you're gaming, make sure all system resources are dedicated to game, not Discord, Chrome, or whatever other app you've left open. You'd be amazed how much CPU and RAM can be freed up just by closing some unnecessary processors. This don't mean you have to uninstall everything. Just manage your resources during gameplay. Now, a quick note on Windows Update. Microsoft releases updates that improve system stability, security, and overall performance. But these updates can also break your system, introduce conflict with software or drivers. This is where being proactive comes in. When updates come out, make sure you read patch notes before jumping into them. Sometimes it's better to delay an update until you're sure it won't disrupt your gaming experience. Windows Update issues have been known to interfere with gaming setups. So always check forums or Reddit to see if others are reporting problems post-update before pulling trigger. Now let's talk about optimizing your system's power plan again, because it's just that important. High performance power plans are your best friend when gaming. When you're gaming, don't let your CPU throttle down to save a few watts. Change your power settings to high performance in Windows control panel and disable power saving modes for your GPU. Your system should be running full bore, not trying to save battery power while you're tearing through latest FPS game like a maniac. Finally, it's time to take care of your Wi-Fi again. Talked about this before, but I'm telling you, if you're relying on Wi-Fi for gaming, you're playing with fire. Wi-Fi is great for browsing cat memes and watching YouTube, but when it comes to gaming, wired is king. Even best Wi-Fi setup can introduce latency spikes and packet loss. If you're serious about gaming, run the Ethernet cable straight into your system. It's like choosing between a roadster and a tricycle when you want to race. Just better, period. In summary, maintaining your system into one and done deal. Regular updates, keeping your hardware clean and optimizing performance will ensure you don't face same frustrations Captain Overkill had. With these steps, you're not only fixing issues, you're preventing them. Keep your system optimized and your gaming experience will be smoother than a greased weasel at a slip and slide. Alright, you magnificent gaming legends, we've come to end a deep dive into Captain Overkill's tech meltdown. After all fixes, all updates, all tweaks, we can safely say that Captain Overkill's RTX 4070 gaming laptop should be in fighting shape. But I'm sure you're wondering, what's final verdict? Well, it's bottom line. Gaming issues like these aren't just one thing. They're a tangled mess of settings, hardware, software, and sometimes good old-fashioned user error. But if you follow these steps, you're stacking odds in your favour to get smoother performance, lower latency, and most importantly, less frustration. Your game's going to run like a dream. Your system will stay cooler than a cucumber in a freezer. And those freezers? Gone. But before you go throwing your old laptop out the window, remember this. Every system has limits. If you've done all fixes, cleaned out background apps, and your rig still can't keep up, might be time to invest in a new piece of tech. Market's always evolving, and sometimes upgrading your hardware is only real fix for an ancient setup. But again, always check basics first. Don't skip small stuff like driver updates, background processors, or Wi-Fi optimization. And always check your temperatures. But before we wrap up, I need you all to do me a favour. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and leave your comments and questions below. Might just feature them on channel. And trust me, I want to hear your gaming horror stories, fixes that work for you, and any tips you've got that I might have missed. Don't be shy, engage, get involved, and let's keep this thing rolling. So once again, thank you for sticking with me through this chaos. Whether you're fixing your gaming rig or just here for rants, I appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you next time, you magnificent.